Nothing happening. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Costello here with my colleague Leo Farberg. Hi, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good,
Good to
good.
be here.
So, we're going to talk about the small stuff today. And what do I mean by the small stuff? Sometimes, and it's hardly unsurprising, people who feel that they may need counseling support, they may need therapy, they look upon the whole thing as something huge and highly complex and so on and so on. And that does their head in, if I'm honest, especially when they don't have much of an understanding of the process. But one of the things we use, and many of these, I should say, many of the things we use are actually quite small, but very powerful tools that are based in neuroscience. We know they work. Somebody's spent a lot of money to do the research, and they can make a huge difference. So we're going to talk a little bit today about spirals. You know what I mean by a spiral? When we're going down and down and down, we're being sucked in by whatever's happening in our worlds. We're overthinking. We're trying to research harder. We're trying to plan more. We're trying to push more. We're trying to be more and do more. And it gets overwhelming. It really does. So what happens? We keep going down and down that spiral, and we don't find a way up anytime soon. That's not cool. So we're going to look for ways that we can break that spiral, without any pushing, without any fixing, and certainly not without by kind of faking calm. You know, we've all heard this story: fake it till you make it. It doesn't work. Newsflash, does not work. So let's think about a spiral just for a minute. It's quite often they start with something really small, one small thought, kind of a flash of doubt or a comment made from someone we trust. And then suddenly, where are we? We're miles away in our minds. We're out of the present moment. We're stuck up here. We're building worst case scenarios. We're feeling disconnected, maybe tight chested, maybe our breathing's too fast. And then our head gets dizzy. All kinds of crazy things happen. And it's not helpful, is it? Many of my clients tell me stories like that when we first meet. Myself, when I was told years ago that I wasn't going to walk again, I got lost in a very deep spiral. What if? How can I? Should I? Shall I? Whatever. All these questions were coming into my head every single day. And it never made it better until eventually I started to find the small stuff. And that made a difference. So what do you think, Leo?
Oh, that's not just a common story. I think everybody goes through these spirals. Some people do it, ha happen to be in these situations less than others. I personally am now in this spiral because of a difficulty of my situation, and so I have to practice what I preach in real time, like a reality show. And so I really psychologists tend to tell tales in like big theory, and we also like to do it. We love our trade, we love psychology, we love the theories. But what really works is these little tiny things that you implement throughout your day when you find yourself in this fear state or anxiety state, or when you're lost, when you're like stuck in the like mind thinking of things. That's if you start looking at it not as you know, this is the state I'm in, but this state is signaling me something that I am uncomfortable. If we read these states of overthinking or fear or anxiety or whatever they are, is that what does it tell me? and then what can I do with it? These are probably two questions. Can I
Yeah,
not, it's not about calm. It's about getting this grab of the situation, this, and it's not trying to control everything, but it's as if this is what I can control. Choosing an appropriate amount or an appropriate field which you can control. And then that brings you into your senses, back
yeah.
to your.
Back to your, yeah, bring you back to your senses. I like that phrase. I think it's cool. I was just thinking whilst you were talking as well about so we feel, for example, we feel fearful about what's happening in our world, or we feel angry about it, negative emotions I'm thinking about. So if you think about that, if we're feeling those things, our scope of attention becomes really narrow. So if we're feeling fear constantly, our scope of attention for all the other things around kind of gets a little bit too narrow. So we can't grab hold of those positive things.
Mhm.
Whereas if we notice our positive emotions, and you don't have to dwell on them, you don't have to analyze them, you don't have to do anything great with them. Wow, I feel joy right now. Just notice that. Wow, I feel love. Love for my partner, love for my kids, whatever it is. Notice it and move on. Because by noticing those positive emotions, we broaden our minds. Our mind is then more accepting to all the good stuff going on around us, which in turn helps us to manage the challenging stuff. Now, that sounds ridiculously stupid, but there's an awful lot of research about that. One of my favorite positive psychologists, Barbara Fredrickson, did research on that. And she came up with a thing called the broaden and build theory. So she's talking about broadening our positive emotions because that builds on the positive stuff and that makes us more receptive to the good stuff coming in. It doesn't mean we're ignoring the challenges. Absolutely not. But it's a great theory to think about. If anybody needs to know more about that, give us a shout
Yeah.
and we'll talk about it. We'll send you information or whatever you need. Um, if you think about for a minute about nature, so if you've got the roots of a plant going into the ground, and for some reason the roots of that plant are being challenged and they're kind of in panic, I don't know whether it's panic or not, maybe they do, um, the plant's not going to grow. It's going to wither and may die. And in a way, if we're spiraling downwards, that's like a root that's rotting in a way. Just think about it like that. The root's hidden, but slowly it's suffocating. And that's a little bit like what happens to us as we go down that spiral. We're suffocating. We're not allowing ourselves to breathe freely. So why don't we focus on our breathing for a minute? So when something happens, when we have a thought that's challenging, just stop. Literally stop. Okay, don't do this too much if you're driving. So stop and pause and breathe. Breathe very intentionally. So the way I would do it is in through the nose for a comfortable count. And then I would hold the breath for the same comfortable count, and then gently push the breath out through the mouth for the same count. And I do that 2 or 3 times. I do that frequently during my day, and it makes a difference.
It does, and I think that, if you not you don't even necessarily have to be in a stressful situation. It's
No,
just I'm very fond of on one hand I am a psychologist who likes like talk therapy and logic and CBT and explaining and looking for some explanations from your side and stuff. But at the same time, I value very much the somatic side of it, because emotions are actually somatic states, the way you are. And when you uh, get a bunch of little tools which are not to fix things, but to regulate. It's a bit different, because what we need a regulated nervous system. And if you have like two, three, five tools simple ones, starting with breathing, because that's probably the main key to the nervous system, the one that we can use and control and apply and modulate to our own wish as we wanted. If you do like 5, 7, 10 breaks during the day just to regulate yourself, not to fix the moment well when you already like wound up or tense or
Yeah.
unhappy, but just pause, notice your state, use a little tool to relax, maybe to calm down, to concentrate. We don't want to be calm all the time. Regulated nervous system doesn't mean we're calm. It's just that we are not, jumping out of our pants.
Yeah.
It's it's and it gives you more uh help and more use if you do it like 7 to 10 times a day for a minute or 3 minutes. It's better than you spend an hour meditating or doing some exercise, which is good, but if you insert these little pauses into your day, it will bring you much more good.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. When I crashed out, I was sitting in a wheelchair. One of the things that helped me was to pause during moments of pain. So the pain would come. In the beginning, the pain would come and I would fight it. I used to use phrases like that as well. I need to fight the pain. But guess what? Fighting it made me tired. It didn't help. Not
It
at all,
brings
not even a little bit.
it brings more pain.
It made more pain, yes. So I learned how to pause during moments of pain. When I was beginning to walk again, which was a couple of years down the line, some days I couldn't do a step. So I learned how to sit down, pause, and breathe. Some days I could do 10 steps. Great. That was a reason to celebrate. But every day was different. And that's what it's like with all of us in whatever's going on in our world. Every day is different. Things happen in different ways. The different things or interfere in a positive way sometimes, So we've got to be prepared for differences. One of the other things as well is when we're stressed, what does cortisol do? It rises. What else does cortisol do, Leo?
I wasn't prepared for this question.
I know you weren't prepared. That's why I threw it in.
Well, it's a state of fear. It's a state of being ready to fight, to run, to do some active motion, actually.
Yeah,
Um, and it also robs you of this ability for the body to restore yourself. Because right now it's not about restoration, it's about saving your life. Because our brain does not differentiate whether it's some
Mm.
real danger in front of us, or it's a moral danger or relational danger. And so it actually, it's good in the moment when you need to save your life and save your body, but it's brings your body into deterioration because it shuts down your immune system, your ability to restore, to digest, and we cannot allow cortisol to stay in our system for too long.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I threw it in because what it forced you to do, it changed the way we were taking this podcast.
Yeah,
It
it
changed
totally changed
direction
things.
slightly. But sometimes that's what we need to do. We need to change direction in just slight, small ways, as I said with me walking. So, for example, the grounding techniques like breathing intentionally is a type of a grounding technique. It lowers our heart rate, it reduces the cognitive overload that may well be occurring in that particular moment. So it's powerful. we can do simple things as well. I'm not going to apologize for this. I use a little example called choose a color. I've got a funny story about this in a minute. So when you feel overloaded, when you feel that things are a little bit too challenging, pause, breathe intentionally, and pick a color, any color, red, and find 3 examples of red that's in your room right now. Keep focusing on the breathing. And when you're done with that, just go back to what you were doing. It's not ignoring what was going on before. It's bringing you back to the present. It's grounding you once more. So I was doing this with a client I was telling Leo a few minutes ago, and she told me afterwards that she needs to do something about her decor at home because it's boring. Because she'd been doing that exercise, which I think was quite cool, quite funny. Um, my intention wasn't to give her more work to do at home, but that's what happens. Um, so let's pause at this point and let's come back to this next week. But think about the grounding. Intentional breathing is a great way to ground.
What
Choosing
I've
a color is simple and a great way to ground. Leo, you were gonna.
Yeah, well, I wanted just to mention that I now I realize when we are talking that actually many people do, though the word grounding is much more in the field,
Yeah,
but still, I think that many people don't understand what grounding is or what an intentional breathing may be, because very often when you're stressed, you find your breathing constricted or very shallow or very fast. And my clients sometimes would say, I realize that I cannot breathe deeply and I feel tense or like the breath, as if air doesn't go further into the body. And there are tools to help and overcome this, and or give yourself an ability to take a deeper breath, because just simply telling people you have to breathe deeply, like count to 10, like whatever, uh, in the moment of stress they cannot do it because
yeah,
they are constricted
yeah,
by this state
yeah.
of nervous
That's
system.
right.
Probably, uh, it, I think we could ask our listeners, you can actually share your understanding of grounding, share your tools that you find working, because another thing that I find that yes, there may be a very good tool online or in a training given by a therapist, but it has to be somehow tailored to the person,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
sometimes the best known tools, the proven one, the person just cannot do it, or
Yeah,
feels appalled that it doesn't work, I don't want it. And so you have to do a couple of dancing rounds around the
yeah,
thing.
absolutely. I think it's, as you said, it's different for everybody. So, for example, I remember a particular client who couldn't get the air in. What do you do when you get stressed? I can't breathe. I can't get there. It doesn't go past, and she's got a hand. You can't see my hand there. Uh, so the air wasn't getting in. So I started to watch her during our sessions, and I could always see when the air wasn't getting in. So I started saying just one word, stop. But I said it quite loudly,
Mhm.
almost, not quite forcefully, but almost. And it worked. It didn't work in the beginning. It didn't work the first 2 or 3 times even. But eventually, when I said stop, she breathed. So maybe I should have used the word start instead. I don't know. But it worked. That
Without
worked for her, and it worked for her completely. And it may not work for the next person. So, as Leo said, please share if you've got any ideas. We have a ton of ideas. We have a lot of experience between us. So we're happy to share some of those as well. So don't hesitate. Leave comments, send direct messages, do whatever you got to do to get in touch, and we will always respond.
that's for sure.
That's it from us. See you again soon, everybody. Take care.
Bye.